talk about our journeys to and through the MPA program. A little bit of background on myself. I was actually born in Charleston, but my dad was in the military. So I didn't actually live here, kind of moved around a lot, but my mom was born and raised here, her mom was born and raised here, my cousins are born and raised here. So I do not consider Charleston my home. It wasn't until elementary school when we finally moved somewhere that I considered a place, because I lived there what seemed like my entire childhood, in San Diego. This is kind of me, but I did enjoy this opportunity. This is my time where I really got to embrace the environment. I was always outside more than I was inside. That's not actually what brought me here. In fact, I would have said I was going to Stanford, full ride scholarship, playing field hockey and soccer, becoming a neurosurgeon, and making a lot of money, and I would have been so happy with that. But after 8th grade, my dad, the power plant closed, we ended up moving from Southern California to Chapin, South Carolina. The environment, the culture, the politics was very different from Southern California, and I was so sad. I wanted to get out and never come back to South Carolina. I ended up going to Marquette University, still on the pre-med track as a physiology major, but I learned out very quickly that is not my path, that I am not going to become a doctor, not with that D+. So immediately after this, I tried to figure out what can I do that can also make me a lot of money. And I decided on a lawyer. I went from physiology to political science my sophomore year, and I was so sure I was going to be a lawyer. I joined the military as a paralegal specialist. I am still in it, unfortunately, or fortunately, who you ask. It has been a great opportunity. I got to go to Korea and explore other places. One of the main things I took away from this is I actually don't want to be a lawyer. If you talk to a lot of lawyers, they'll tell you, don't do it. And so after talking to dozens, I kind of just sat there and I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I set myself on pre-med, and then I set myself on pre-law, and I just didn't really have a passion, but I was going to do it just so I'd have a job. Thankfully, I did take a class with a Dr. Schaefer at Marquette. We read this book and we read journals, and we basically took different theological lenses and indigenous knowledge to talk about how we should think about and care for the environment, and that piqued my interest. To the point I went researching far and wide to brace this interest with my political science background, and I found a concurrent program. And after talking to a bunch of faculty and staff, I was like, this is it, I'm gonna come to this program. But in my final semester, I ended up at DC interning for Nelson Mullins for their government relations team. And I fell in love with the work I was doing, being that broker between nonprofits and government. And I decided that after I graduate, I'm never leaving DC and I'm gonna stay there. But unfortunately, COVID was a thing. I didn't have enough experience. So I took the semester off, trying to figure out what it is I really wanted to do, worked at Starbucks for a little bit, and then decided to go back to school. I applied for the MPA program, and after the first year, I applied to the EDSS program, and thankfully, I got into both. I found a passion for baking since I've been here, and I've had the pleasure, like Autumn, working and being a graduate assistant at the Riley Center, kind of doing a lot of the same projects, working with local governments, nonprofits, and communities on issues they're facing. I've had the pleasure to work with Dr. Watson on a thesis bridging my interest in environmental justice. But that's to say that before joining this program, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I kind of decided or figured out that I have a purpose now. I know what I want to do, I know what type of public servant I want to be, and how I want to engage with communities. I understand the importance of collaboration and communication, meeting communities where they're at and centering their beliefs and their opinions at the forefront of my advocacy. I understand the importance of humility when I go into communities. I'm not going to have all the answers, and the only way I can really address and be a better advocate is having a growth mindset. So continuously learning, educating myself on what it means to be an advocate, but also learning from the communities I serve to be a better advocate for them. And lastly, just kind of ensuring that my advocacy, that when I advocate, I'm advocating on behalf of the communities, that I'm centering their opinions, their beliefs at the forefront of my advocacy. And what I advocate for is rooted in fairness, justice, and equity. And with that being said, I don't know what the future holds, but I am excited, and I know that no matter how hard it is, I'm going to stick to this path. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carla, for hiring me. Thank you, faculty and staff. And thank you to my peers.